Hey guys, cool Mnemonic here for never forgetting the chronologies of teeth ever again. I came up with this last night, so it hasn't been given the test of time, but because this mnemonic, I've made it so it's as easy as counting on your fingers. I think that it's going to be a good mnemonic for us. So first thing is don't be confused or intimidated by this picture I have here. It's going to be really easy once I explain it to you. So it's not as confusing as this picture looks. Alright, so the first thing is we're going to start with the mandibular teeth, and I'll show you that. And I've done that, I've shown that kind of spatially on the picture, so these lower hands represent the mandibular teeth chronology, and then the upper space is going to be more denoting the maxillary teeth chronology. My cat's here, so if you hear her whining, it's because she wants me to play with her and not make this video. Anyway, so how this is going to work is you're going to start on 6 on this left hand. So if you take both of your hands and look at them, and what you're going to do is you're going to make a Star Trek hand symbol, which I actually had to look up. It's called a Vulcan salute. I'm not a big Trekkie, so I didn't know that, but it makes me sound like one now that I do. So on your left hand, looking at your hands with your left hand, do a Vulcan salute. And on your right hand, you're going to make an OK sign. So you can remember these easy by just thinking that Star Trek is OK. So starting with that left hand, you're going to pretend that this is your 6th finger. So and this mnemonic is actually going to go from 6 to 6. And I'll explain why in a second. But for now, let's just say we're going to start on 6. And so this is your 6th finger, 7th finger, 8th finger, 9th finger, 10th finger. Alright, so that easily denotes that the mandibular central incisor is 6 to 7. So these two fingers together remind you it's 6 to 7. These two fingers remind you that the lateral incisor is 7 to 8 years. These last two fingers remind you that the canine tooth, the mandibular canine, is 9 to 10 years old, is the approximate time. And I got these numbers, by the way, from I think it was Wheeler's textbook, and I have the table here just to show that I'm giving you the right numbers. So you can see these first anterior teeth have been talked about here: 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 9 to 10, and that Vulcan salute basically gives you that real easy. Alright, now for the premolars, we have your right hand. So the trick with this is make sure that you overlap your pinky fingers so that your right hand, the pinky finger, actually represents year 10, right? And then, so we have, this would be 10, this would be 11, and this would be 12. So we're also going to use these creases here to remember these teeth. So hopefully you have the right creases. I actually looked up creases. My creases happen to look like this. So I have a distal crease and a proximal crease, and the distal crease extends all the way out to the end of my palm. Hopefully you have that. I think 87% of people have that. So here's a little diagram of the different kinds of hand creases you could have. So if you have the common lines, this is going to work well for you. That's what I have. If you have the extended heart line, this is also going to work well. And even if you have the Suwan crease, it's going to work well. If you have the simian crease, I doubt you're probably even studying this, because you likely have, well, I guess maybe some Klinefelter people actually have simian crease, but the majority of people with simian crease have Down syndrome or other chromosomal abnormalities. Sydney line, this isn't going to work so well for you, so sorry to that 6%. But so for the rest of us with these creases, what this creases is going to represent the years for that tooth. So let me just say, this hand is representing the premolar teeth, where the top crease extending is representing the first premolar, and the second crease, the lower crease, is representing the second premolar. So that's to say, since this is your 10th, 11th, and 12th finger, those teeth, the first premolar is going to erupt from the 10th to 12th year, so that crease reminds us of that. And then the 11th to 12th year is going to be with the second premolar. And you can see that it looks like I've got those right based on this. So far we got all the anterior teeth and the premolars. Now as for the molars, This is going to be a very easy rule. Basically, this last part of the OK sign is going to remind us that every 6 years you get a molar. So you get a molar basically when you're 6, you get a molar when you're 12, and you get a molar when you're 18. And that's sequentially from front to back. So 6, 12, and 18. So if you actually want to remember the kind of time frame, then just remember that you have a year above, the 6 to 7, and then you're going to build a time frame around 12, right? So on the second molar is going to come on the second set of 6 years, so that's going to be approximately 12. But you just build basically a 3-year time period around that. And then 17 to 21, I think you just have to remember cold. It kind of hovers around 18. So I just, for being elegant, I say every 6 years you get a molar. But 17 to 21, you can just remember that cold, I think. So that happens for both of the molars, namely the mandibular and maxillary molars, 17 to 21. So there you go. You got a map basically for all the mandibular chronologies, just by remembering that Star Trek is okay. Make sure you overlap the pinky fingers, and then remember this rule of 6s for the molars, and then these creases, these palmar creases, can aid you with the premolar years. As for the maxillary years, it's quite simple now that we've already got this basic structure out. All we have to do is do a slight alteration. So what you can do with your hands is, for the premolars, is you can just rotate them upwards, your hand upward, so it looks like this top hand here. And now you have the new chronologies of the premolars. So keeping in mind that this more central finger represents now the 10th year, and the creases are now shifted, so make sure you read the creases from top down. So the 10th and 11th year for the first premolar on the maxillaries, and the 10th through 12th premolars for the second premolar on the maxillary dentition. As for the molars, we have a similar rule of 6s. Notice here we have 6 to 7, the same years, approximately same time frame for the mandibular first molar. And then we have the second molar, and you'll notice that time frame is just bumped up. It's narrower by 1 year, so it's going to be a little later. And you can remember that pretty easily because the maxillaries are usually later, especially with the permanent dentition. And then we have the same 17 to 21. So all there is to remember with the difference from the mandibular is that 1 year bumped, a 1 year tighter time frame for that second molar. So 12 to 13 rather than being centered around that 12th year from 11 to 13. So that's real easy. And then for the anterior teeth, all you have to do is remember some simple addition. 11 plus 11 is equal to 22. And all you do is add each of these numbers into each of these. So instead of 6 and 7, we add 1 to each of these numbers, and it's 7 to 8. Instead of 7 to 8 here, it's 8 to 9. And then instead of 9 to 10, we add 2 to each of these numbers, and it's 11 to 12. All right? So that was real easy. All right, so practice with this yourself. Maybe take a screenshot, make a drawing, make your own diagram, or do whatever it takes. Whatever happens, I would suggest not going back to remembering this straight cold. I tried that, didn't work for me. I'm hoping I can basically never forget this. And now I can tell people, I can even hold up my fingers to maybe a kid who has their teeth coming in, and it's a map for me. And I can tell them exactly, what year, how old they are using these rules. If it helped you guys, please like the video and please share with your friends. I appreciate you guys taking your time to watch this, and have a great day.